Konene, so jana kuna vile Kalonzo alibaki ameishia tu inaitwa Kango Ka Jaramogi. Mizo maside za Bondo. Alienda kwa the gravesite ya Raila na ilikuwa a very interesting event. Why? Because stories of their relationship, like the relationship between the two, ilienda piki come up. The fact that kuna vile Kalonzo alisupporti Raila 3 times, najua. And of course the critics will always talk about the one time when he didn't do that. And kama ujaicheki interview yangu ile nilifanyaga na Kalonzo, make sure me check out because nibaki nimemuuliza juu ya 2007 and the role that he played in that, unajua, and how history itamjudge for his actions in 2007. Kama ujai watch your interview, make sure me check out. But sasa yes, history ilikuwa reported na Citizen, so wacha tusikie like what happened and what we can get from this, because kumekuwa na controversies around who should visit and who should not visit the gravesite.
Party Leader Kalonzo Musyoka visited the grave of the late Raila Odinga at Kango Ka Jaramogi in Siaya County, where he urged the people of Bondo and the Odinga family to allow all Kenyans, regardless of tribe or political affiliation, to pay their respects to the late Raila Odinga. Ida Odinga, the widow of Raila, said that the friendship between Musyoka and the late Odinga can never be erased given the long political journey they shared, while also saying that all those that loved Raila Odinga are welcome to give their respects. And later Odinga's reports.
So yes, kumekuwa na hiyo debate, and I think this debate also came up after a certain very weird press conference that happened with Wanga. Ile Wanga alikuwa anasema sijui nani na nani haiko invited. And I found it to be very divisive. Najua kuna things that we are not supposed to do. I always call them intrusive thoughts. You should have them, but don't voice them out, especially if you're trying to put yourself as a national leader. You have to know what to say and what not to say. But yeah.
About 100 cattle led the procession of the Wiper Party leader and his allies into Kango Ka Jaramogi.
Ino kitu moja nimekam kunotice, damn, the rich get richer. The rich get richer, because you can try and imagine, during your funeral ya Raila, I've seen so many people take so many cows. So when you're 100 cows, who else did I see? I think niliona pia like another person alikuwa ameenda sijui na 100 cows. Imekuwa like ridiculous. These people have just been taking like so many cows. Sa hiyo jo, if you are a broke person, uge hata kuna mtu anatokea na kuku jo. Familia yako iko tu pale. Kwa familia yako ndio inabidi grab kuku iue jo, ila yeye amekuja ku. That's why my funerals za watu wamesota zikisha happen once was so split jo. Kwa hakuna kurudi. Kwa ukirudi, umerudi sasa tuwe kuku jo yako. Ama who gave us this story? Oh, ilikuwa nini? This very interesting episode that nilifanyaga na anaitwa nani, Oyunga Pala, when we were talking about his book, this book here, one of the greatest books to come out this year, Strength and Sorrow. Na alikuwa nabonga vile in some Luo families you'll find someone visits, and when they visit they show up with bread, milk and tea leaves, and that family ends up making the bread, milk and the tea leaves for the visitors. And I remember like when I had that, I remembered like growing up as a kid, because of course I grew up in Tagrok. So I remember like sometimes when a visitor would show up with bread and milk and they'd end up wanatengeneza hiyo bread and milk, alafu sasa sisi tuko pale tuna hope that ka slice kataachwa. Kuna vitu za Tagrok mingi jo za hizo siku, because I also remember like vile bread iko inapakwa alafu inakatwa half hivi like katikati. Sasa una hope kuna kitu cha baki. So once in a while unapata the person who's brought that thing sira imesota, so inakula kidogo alafu achia watoto wengine, alafu wengine unapata nira imesota ikule hiyo siku the whole thing inabaki imeisha, nashindwa ni gani hizi. So but I digress. Wacha to go back to stories za Kalonzo. So umecheki jo, ng'ombe ziletwa jo, the rich get richer man,
as a symbolic gift to the Odinga family during this period of mourning. Kalonzo Musyoka, together with leaders from his political home turf, were seen observing Luo traditions and customs as they paid their respects to a close friend and long-time political ally.
We're very happy to have you guys here, especially today, which is one of the hottest days. Sijui kama Wakamba mlipanga hivyo ama.
Memories of Raila and Kalonzo's close bond resurfaced, particularly their political camaraderie, when Kalonzo Musyoka supported Raila Odinga's presidential bid 3 times, serving as his running mate twice in 2013 and 2017.
We were in the trenches. We said resist. Raila Odinga will be more powerful in death, I repeat, than when he was alive.
So talking of that, I hope kuna watu wameona hizo images, especially the images in black and white where the police are there with their batons, and a lot of people used to die during these times. That's why, like, every time when I'm talking about Tanzania, I bring up the fact that Kenya has also seen some really bad crimes against humanity on protesters, and people always justify it, which I understand. Someone will always justify because they feel like I was on the winning side, so why the hell were they protesting? They did not need to protest. I was on the winning side. There was no wrong done to them. They did not need to protest. And that's a very interesting reasoning going into 2027. Because in 2027, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if Ethicon will announce the rightful winner. And I always say this, if the rightful winner is William Samoei Ruto, he should be announced. There should not be anything about feelings about what. If people don't show up to vote, and Ruto wins, he should be announced as a winner. What would be wrong is if it's clear that Ruto has lost. But remember, incumbents don't lose in Africa. That has never happened. And in Kenya, the first one-term guy, if we followed the rules, should have been Kibaki. And Kibaki was not one-term. But Kibaki alileta maendeleo. Politics doesn't work that way. Remember kuna msali reach out kwangu hivyo akiniambia, saizi coffee inanunuliwa sana huko Central, so Ruto is going to win in Central. I'm like, no, politics doesn't work that way. Politics is emotional. And if you had to go back to 2002, Kenyans were very emotional and Kenyans were very united. And Kibaki had a golden chance to make tribalism a thing of the past. He was the first president to be elected by basically all tribes in Kenya. And he fucked that up. And when he did that in 2007, people wanted him out. And he pulled a Tharaka Nithi. And with that Tharaka Nithi, a lot of Kenyans were killed. And the only difference is the internet was not what it is right now. So that's an advantage. Otherwise, watu walikufa. And most people died from gunshot wounds. And what that did is it showed incumbents that, even in Kenya, it showed incumbents that even if you lose, you can just use violence. Manipulate the numbers, use violence, and you'll stay in power. And wasoni bambaga sana nikisikia sawa kule, Kasongo would never do that. We are going to stop him. No, you won't. You won't. He's going to just use maximum violence. I predicted this maximum violence stuff because of Kenya. I know it happens. Nileta nilikuwa nasema that from Thursday, what's her name? Samia Suluhu would use maximum violence. I was using Kenya as an example, and I'll keep doing that. I'll keep relating the Kenyan situation and showing you that we are not beyond anything. Never assume your assumption that this cannot happen. This can happen here. It's happened here on a lower scale. But you see what the international community is doing. By the international community allowing Samia to get away with it. Remember, they don't need Tanzania as much as they need Kenya. By that, they are emboldening Ruto. So now Ruto knows that Makarawa kiingia kwa room, now should kila mtu. The international community will be like, okay, that's okay. We did not see that. See no evil, hear no evil. So this changes the game kabisa. So in 2027, kwa sewataki Ruto, if you've not registered to vote and you're planning there telling yourself, oh, this guy, utashanga. It's happened before and it can happen again. Just because the last time candidate messed up democracy, it was your favorite, does not mean that it can't happen again. It can happen again and happen again and happen again. When it comes to African politics, I don't think there is anything. Even after history yote, the way we fought and we ended up with multi-party democracy and we ended up with term limits. When I look at this country and I look at how much we are able to justify deaths of people we don't agree with, I always think I wouldn't be surprised if one day someone tries to change the constitution. You jinga tu akina Ruto will try your life president, and a significant chunk would still support it. Look at it this way. During 2017, after Supreme Court ikataa ibaki nullify the first elections, kile Dindi Nyoro alisema suspend the constitution. This is a guy right now in the front line fighting Ruto, and people are like, Dindi represents a new. No, he does not represent a new type of thinking. He's the sort of guy, if right now he was friends with Ruto, he'd want Ruto to suspend the constitution. And that's the fragility of the Kenyan economy. It's so fragile that it can be flipped at any point. The 2018 cyber amendment will bring you up. Why? Because when the killings were happening in Kisumu and Mathare and Kibera, people were posting the images. So who did not want the images posted? It was Uhuru. So who came up with this story? Uhuru. Uhuru is the one who signed it. Who's made it more popular? Kasongo, because hatupendi Kasongo. So you look at all these things and you're like, Kenya is a very tricky situation. So let us never be as so arrogant that we think it can never happen in Kenya. Mina kwa gazile za, I look at things with, alafu saizi considering there is no someone with a cultic following like Raila. Najua cultic ile design, people will leave the house not sure if they're coming back, and they'll still leave the house. There's no one with such a cultic following. So hopefully the gap into 2027, if Ruto is losing, is so big that he doesn't try any tricks. Hopefully, Inesokana TZ will lose 30 billion shillings in the few days they shut down the internet. Hopefully we don't get that. But one thing I know, it's never beyond an African leader to do anything to stay in power. It's never beyond them. And 2007 will always go down as that iconic moment. If Kibaki had agreed to be a one-term, being a one-term in Kenya would have been so normalized, because this would have been like, this guy did all this development, but he didn't fight tribalism. That's why he was one-term. Then this other guy got this, and he did not maybe fight corruption. That's why he was a one-term. Oh, this guy got 2 terms. You know what? Because he did this and this and this. This guy did, but after that, it just showed that ukarabati. That's why natikianga kina Cheragei wako hapo like, kifika hapo tutafanya ukarabati. Yeah, tutafanya ukarabati. So all that happened because of that. And we have to know the past, and we have to accept the fact, the past and how the past happened for us to know the future. And now with the future, hopefully, next year I expect death and destruction to happen in Uganda, but hopefully, I'm hoping Kenya is beyond that. I'm hoping. Am I sure? No. But I'm hoping, and I'm hopeful that first of all, more people will register. And second, people will show up to vote when it's time to vote. And third, people will be more vigilant and people will share. Najua, zile piga picha, put online, piga picha, put online. Make it so hard for mtu kuiba. And hopefully the IEBC will look at what has happened in Tanzania and say, we do not need this in Kenya. Yes, we do not need 2,000 people killed. Hatuhitaji hiyo. And of course, Kenya Starlink is legal. So even if you shut down the internet, Elon Musk is not going to shut down the internet. There's no way to shut down satellite internet. So there'll be some form of internet in Kenya. And yeah, we'll see what's up. But I'll keep insisting on this. Never say never. It's a very stupid thing to say. After 2002, if you told me that people would doubt elections in Kenya, I'd have told you never. After 2005, the referendum, I'd have said never. But 2007, even by the time Asolko anaenda kulala and the gap was 1 million, I would have said never. But then I learned the hard way that in Kenya, anything is possible. And if Ruto was to pull such a move, there'd be a very big chunk of the country supporting him. And it would reach a point where that big chunk would be like, hakuna mtu anajua nani alishinda hiyo time. Unajua Krigla alisema hakuna mtu anajua. No. So, tuendelee.
Because he inspired the young Kenyans. He inspired the Gen Zs.
Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka has been a friend of Baba for many, many years. And that friendship cannot be wiped out.
Following claims that some leaders might be barred from visiting Raila Odinga's grave in Bondo due to political differences, Kalonzo Musyoka called on the people of Bondo and the Odinga family to welcome all Kenyans, emphasizing that Raila was a national leader.
I know that the Kikuyu nation, for example, will come. Our brother Rigiji would want to come. And those who spoke badly spoke for themselves, and others will come.
So ikikam tu story ya Rigiji, kuna a certain very interesting letter that I saw that I want to react to, but wacha tusikize kile Aida alisema.
Only those who love us, only those who love Raila Odinga, they are the ones who come here to the funeral. And for that, I'm very grateful. I know some people would like to mix it with politicians, with politics. Personally, I'm not a politician. My husband was a superb politician, not me. So don't expect me to bring in any politician.
Leaders have continued to honor the late Raila Odinga for his leadership, wisdom and service to the nation as they offer comfort to his family during this difficult time.
Okay, so kulikuwa na hiyo. So baadaye umesikia vile Kalonzo amesema that he'd want Rigiji to go. Unacheki. And so kumekuwa na hiyo debate like should Rigiji go, should Rigiji not go. Konene, nimeinterrupt show kukuremind you Lemfi. Kama uko US ama Canada na unataka kutuma do Kenya, register kwa Lemfi ukitumia promo code EKONENE. Hii itakuguarantee $20 cashback on your first $100 transaction. Alafu pia time una register, make sure umetick the 2 check boxes za notifications ndio ukireceive info about amazing offers through newsletters. Na pia usijali, Lemfi hawatumagi hizi letters za, yani unajua like ma messages za kipumbavu. Pia usisahau every time una transact $50 and above una earn points. Na the more una transact, the more points you earn and you can redeem them as cash ile time unatuma pesa. Alafu pia kitu nanibamba kabisa ni saizi ukitumia Lemfi unabaki umelipa pay bills na till numbers directly. That means unabaki umehandle bills za maparo wako ukiwa hizo maside za States ama maside za Canada. Alafu pia wewe mwenyewe as a Lemfi user baki umetafuta ile button imeandikwa get USD $20, ubaki umeinvite mabeste zako, na ukiinvite mabeste zako on their first $100 transaction unapata pesa ngapi? $20 cashback. So unangoja nini? Baki umechangamka, ingia Lemfi. Lemfi, international payments for everyone. EKONENE. And I ended up seeing this very interesting post. I don't know, it looks like it's fake, but it was so good that I actually respect it. And why do I respect it? Kuna musemaga, like I'm such a big reggae fan. So back in the days kulikuwa na history kwa inasemekana that Bob Marley walikuwa wamekosana na nani? Bob walikuwa wamekosana na, was it Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer? So when Bob Marley died, Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer did not attend the funeral. And what ended up happening, there's a song that's called Burial that they talk about that. But hii history ya Burial, I think ata Peter Tosh alikuwa na his version, and also Bunny Wailer had the same version. So nilikuwa kali, them wanted to come to them funeral, but this man they claim them near general. So ilikuwa gani, they wanted to come to the funeral, but umse mwenyewe pia kwa nakuja kwa funeral za wase wengine, kitu kama hiyo. But alafu ilikuwa ni you want to see me come a funeral, I no go to no one's burial. And so it's the same thing with this statement. The statement was saying something to the effect of Raila and Rigiji were not friends in life, so why should he fake it and show up? As I keep saying, I've not seen any credible source for this, and considering that Kalonzo said that Rigiji would want to go, so ilikuwa ni clarification of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua's absence from the visit of the late Honorable Raila Odinga's home in Bondo. Alafu ikaendelea There have been numerous questions and speculations regarding why former Deputy President and Democracy for Citizens Party DCP leader, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, did not accompany Kalonzo to Bondo to pay his last respects to the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga, who was laid to rest on the 19th of October at his Kango Ka Jaramogi home. We wish to clarify that His Excellency Gachagua had not made any plans or commitments to attend the ceremony. Such occasions are deeply personal and are traditionally attended by friends, political allies, and those who shared a working relationship with the departed. It's important to note that Raila Odinga and Rigathi Gachagua were not political friends. In fact, history will recall that it was Raila Odinga, together with President William Ruto, who played a central role in Gachagua's removal from office in October 2024. Given this background, it would be insincere and hypocritical for Gachagua to attend a ceremony purely for public optics. His Excellency Gachagua has always been known for his truthfulness and authenticity in politics. He does not engage in symbolic gestures for political approval. Then his absence from Bondo should therefore not be misinterpreted. It was a conscious decision grounded in honesty and principle. Alafu ikiendelea, we also wish to emphasize that Gachagua is not pursuing any national political office. As an impeached former deputy president, he's made it clear that his focus remains within the Mount Kenya region and on rebuilding grassroots leadership and accountability. He has no political obligation to engage in appearances that do not align with his values or truth. Then ikiendelea, for Kenya to heal and move forward, we must embrace on the authenticity of a pretense. Kalonzo Musyoka was Raila Odinga's friend. It was therefore fitting for him to pay his respects. Rigathi Gachagua was not, and his decision not to attend should be respected. Let this matter rest. Kenneth Johi, head of communications. And if this was real, because it looks like it was a fake letter, but if this was real and respected, hakuna haja ya kupretend. Najua, they want I to come to the funeral. So, hakuna haja. Let's not pretend. Let's say this Raila like had enough people who loved him, does not need people who didn't love him to show up, and that's my 2 cents on that. But then niko na hii pia ilikuwa kwa kenyans.co.ke, ilikuwa ni Rigathi Gachagua. My mission is very simple, to help Kenyan youth to get rid of Kasongo and take their rightful place in governance. Once I do that, I can go back to Amunyoro and relax. Damn. Okay, I don't know if he said that also. Nimeona kwa kenyans.co.ke, who are always very credible. So maybe he said that. I've not seen the actual video where he said that, but yes. And still tukistick na Kenya, the standard ya leo. The headline is cells of death. Alafu iko at least 17 Kenyans have died in police custody in less than 2 years, exposing the grim reality of torture, cover-ups, and systemic neglect inside the country's police cells. The Independent Medical Legal Unit paints a chilling picture of suspects who enter police custody alive and never make it out. Across the country, the pattern is disturbingly similar. Unexplained deaths, hastily written police reports, and families left searching for the truth that never comes. Then of course wakaeka the first person wamekwa juu kabisa ni Albert Ojwang. And then I remember this girl. Damn, man. What was her name? Oh, damn. You can say like she had a mental breakdown apparently during his stories protests, and the family said that was a lie. And of course you have Lagat on one side and Kanja on the other side. And what I can say is, as I keep saying, the police in Kenya have always committed a lot of atrocities, and the difference is for a very long time we looked away. A lot of us looked away because we felt like it didn't concern us. This is the reason why I always find it very interesting kuona mse kama Matiang'i akiongea against that police brutality. I'm there like, is this guy real? Is this guy serious? Because he oversaw a lot of that when he was the interior cabinet secretary. Like a lot of deaths happened when he was the guy at the helm. So it's interesting to see this is still happening, and this is something that we need to really worry about. And hopefully nikimalizia hii story naenda kusema hopefully the world does not let what happened in Tanzania go. Hopefully at least ICC should even pretend that they're investigating. Otherwise what happened in that country will leak into Kenya. I always say everything is connected. If Trump is allowed to run for a third term, Ruto, who we know already loves being president kabisa, mpaka is talking about Kenya being a first world by 2050. That's none of your business. How Kenya becomes at 2050, hapana. Haifai kwa biashara yako. But with that in mind, uni mtu atakuwa kijiambia, if Raila could try to look for presidency at 80, I can be president till I'm 80. Inakuwaga some very egotistical bullshit that African leaders have, where they think the country survives because of them. The country will be there. So, but if Trump runs for a third term, African leaders, just look for that. Utaona how many countries will change their constitution to go back to life presidents. It's going to be a lot. That's why that asshole, I'll never support that asshole, because whatever happens in America trickles down to other countries. So that's one thing. Now if you come back to our neighbors, Akina Samia Suluhu, if she gets away with mass murder, and the police in Tanzania get away with mass murder, you know what's going to happen in Kenya? Same thing. And that only helps the incumbent. So sisi kama Kenyans, tukiona hata vile mse kama Larry Madowo is asking for footage from Tanzania, tunafaa kuwa huko tunaambia wasa wa TZ jo wa install VPNs na wa share these things, and we need to get this information out there. There needs to be like some sort of, unajua like unachiki vile Kaskoromu msanaitwa Netanyahu anakuwaga wanted na ICC na anafaa kuwa arrested akifika bla bla bla. Hii kimadha cha TZ inafaa kuwa hivyo, kiwe like kinaweza kuwa arrested any place outside. Najua hivyo like outside, anaweza kuwa arrested for what? Why? Because history yake it's remember Sadiq walikuwa the first kusema that those elections were bullshit. Alafu remember that the AU had already congratulated her, but what happened afterwards? The AU itself ilijipata na egg on its face. So the AU had to come out and say, ilikuwa ni nini? The 2025 elections did not meet AU or international standards for democratic elections. The political environment was not conducive to peaceful and credible polls. Institutional preparedness was inadequate to safeguard electoral integrity. Then ikaendelea. The AU urged urgent constitutional, legal and political reforms to guarantee INEC's independence. INEC ni kama IEBC. Permit court challenges to presidential results. Ensure inclusion of opposition, youth and marginalized groups. Protect media and digital freedoms. Kumbuka media ilikuwa shut down, the internet was shut down and everything. Alafu prevent future electronic election related violence. So everything inakuwaga connected, and anything that one president gets away with, it emboldens the other president. So if Suluhu is able to get away with the crimes against humanity that she did, it's going to embolden Museveni. And never put it beyond an African leader to see as much bloodshed as possible as long as they stay president. Never put it past an African leader. And I say this not looking at Uganda. I say this not looking at Sudan. But I say this looking at Kenya. I say this because I know the history of how many people were killed under Jomo Kenyatta. I know the history of mass murder under Moi. I know the history of mass murder under Kibaki. And I know the history of mass murder under Uhuru. And now, of course, mass murder under Ruto. But all these murders, sa Jomo na Moi zilikuwa hiyo scale ya TZ. Where Jomo opened, fire was opened kwa crowd in Kisumu. Like, and enough people died. That was in 1969. And that aligns with the 1969 oath. Then, of course, kuna the Wagala massacre. Ile happen northeastern. That's under Moi. So this is ni mass murder. Hizi mass murder zingine zili happen under akina Kibaki and what they were doing, ile wanaua watu wawili watatu hapa, before you know it, it's a lot of people who died. Like under Kibaki inakuagania over 1,000 people died kwa post election, and kwa those ones over 80% died from police bullets. So you see, so we'd say hiyo for this woman anaitwa nani, TZ, over 2,000 people have died, and purely all are police bullets. You see, so what I can say is TZ looked at Kenya and saw how Kenya deals with protesters, and was like, what if now we took it a notch higher? And what happened? They took it a notch higher, and it's disaster, and it looks like she's going to get away with it. So with that in mind, I'm worried that Kenya will look at what TZ has done and see, you know what, they've gotten away with it, we can also get away with it. And yeah, kwa nashindwa kwa nini mwafa nasema hizi vitu zote. Kuna kugana the famous phrase, the famous phrase ni freedom requires eternal vigilance. So we always have to be vigilant, we always have to wonder. And the biggest mistake you can ever make is to be too comfortable and say that it can never happen here. The question I'll ask you is why? It happened before. Just because you ignored it does not mean that it didn't happen. Just because you justified it does not mean that it didn't happen. Right now there are people justifying what's happening in TZ. Watu wa CCM, akina Queen Darling, wanasema the protesters were stupid. Most probably you've said that before, sindio? Iko nene.